Good afternoon, members, and to our members of the public who are here in the gallery, as well as our members of the public who are watching through live feed television and through our social media platform. The chair will now call this Committee on Ways and Means meeting in order. And with 9 members present today, this afternoon, we have duly established a quorum to conduct today's order of business. So with that, we now move to item 2, adoption of agenda, and do I hear a motion? There is a motion to adopt today's agenda, and it has been seconded. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Motion is adopted. Moving along, we are now on item 3, public comments. And at this time, the chair will now open the podium for any members here in the gallery who wishes to make oral testimony. You may proceed. Please state your name for the record, and please provide oral testimony on items that are relative to today's agenda. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and honorable representatives. My name is Vin Armani. I'm the president of the Trade Council of the Marianas. I'm also the chairman of the I'm also chairman of the Economic Diversification Committee of the Governor's Council of Economic Advisors. Today, I'm honored to have the opportunity to give public comment to this distinguished body, not only as a business owner and entrepreneur who believes in the promise of mutual prosperity for CNMI and members of the global digital economy such as myself, but also as a husband and father who has made the choice to raise my family in the Commonwealth. I come before you to ask for this committee's swift approval of HB 2458 to amend 4 CMC Section 1305 to exempt services and the sale or exchange of securities and other similar assets from gross revenue tax, to amend 4 CMC 1708 to allow rebates for exempted activities, to repeal 4 CMC 1712 and for other purposes. This bill, in almost identical form, unanimously passed the House in the last legislature as HB 23103, but arrived in the Senate late in the session, so was unable to get a committee hearing before the new legislature was sworn in. In its current form, this bill has 9 co-sponsors, all of which are members of this committee and represent a majority of this committee at that, save for one, which is the Speaker of the House. So first and foremost, I want to thank you, all of you, who have now supported this bill through 2 consecutive legislatures. I want to thank you on behalf of the business community of CNMI, as well as on behalf of the new businesses, investors, and retirees that this law will surely attract to the Commonwealth. This is a modernizing bill. It fills in gaps and corrects longstanding issues that for the most part exist because the legislatures in the 1980s and early 1990s, when the laws in question were enacted, could not possibly have taken the internet and the digital economy into consideration. This bill does 3 important things. First, it gives the same tax status to the export of services that we already have for the export of goods. It incentivizes entirely new classes of businesses to relocate here and gives our existing businesses incentive to sell services to customers outside of the Commonwealth, bringing much needed money that is currently outside of CNMI into our economy. Second, it corrects a deficiency in the gross revenue taxation of financial trades. Due to this deficiency, companies that trade in securities and similar assets simply could not base their operations here. With the enacting of this bill into law, we can aggressively court the financial industry to relocate their businesses to and pay taxes in the Northern Mariana Islands. Third, this bill finally removes the deleterious effects of Public Law 540, passed in 1987, and understood by many in the legal and accounting community of CNMI to have been created at the behest of Larry Hillblom, specifically as part of an eventually successful movement to push out William Millard, the billionaire founder of Computerland, from the Commonwealth. Unfortunately, this law, nearly 40 years later, mostly actually hurts NMDs who, if they return to CNMI after residing in the mainland or Guam, cannot source their own capital gains income tax to their homeland of CNMI, such as in the case of a retiree who is disposing of stocks and bonds, costing both them and the Commonwealth money that otherwise is meant to be added to the CNMI Treasury. This bill represents a meaningful step in the direction of economic diversification, while not coming at the expense of any of our existing industries or the efforts to help support those industries in these trying times. We don't need to increase taxes if we can grow the number of taxpayers and the amount of income they source to the Commonwealth. And as a Commonwealth, we have nothing to lose and everything to gain from these very minor and straightforward amendments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vin Armani. Podium is still open for any member of the public who are here who wishes to make oral testimony. Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Alpha Days and Tirawami. My name is Joe Guerrero. I'm here as the president of the Saipan Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of this committee. The chamber has supported the prior version of this bill in the 23rd legislature, and again, I'm here to support House Bill 24-58. Sorry. For many of the reasons, or all of the reasons, as explained by Mr. Vinarmani earlier. In general, the Chamber is in full support of this bill. We believe it will create opportunities for new revenue streams and new businesses that would not otherwise consider locating in the CNMI. And if there are any reservations of this bill, I think we can work through it and figure it out. I don't know if it's done through regulations, through the Department of Finance, but I think in general the concept is pretty straightforward and simple to allow for these exemptions of these specific types of businesses. And we're smart enough here in the Commonwealth that we can figure out how to patch any loopholes should there be any. So let's not be preoccupied with the what ifs. Let's just do it, pass it, and we'll finalize and ensure that we're not losing. We can't lose what we don't have, right? So I call for this body to fully support and the legislature to fully support this bill, House Bill 24-58. I'm also here on another capacity. I co-chair the Governor's Council of Economic Advisors, and this is one bill that we have been deliberating and reviewing, and in concept, it's in line with the governor and the lieutenant governor's vision to find ways to stimulate our economy, and this is one way we believe could help ourselves here. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joe Guerrero. Podium is still open for members of the public who are here who wishes to make oral testimony. Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Honorable members of the House Standing Committee on Ways and Means, my name is Joshua Cook. I'm the Vice President of the Trade Council of the Marianas and one of the founders of CNMI Central, which is digital infrastructure to support economic growth. More importantly, I'm a father and I'm committed to raising my family here. I'm here to share my support for House Bill 2458, which in part exempts services and sales or the exchange of securities from gross revenue tax. It also amends the capital gains so NMTIT better mirrors the Internal Revenue Code, as you know from reading the purpose and findings. If this amendment had been, if the amendments proposed in House Bill 58 had been enacted a month and a half ago, we would have had a successful businessman move here. He and his partners were planning to move to a tax-friendly jurisdiction, continue to build their multi-million-dollar business for a few years, and then sell it for a few million more. But after learning about BGRT and the excessive capital gains requirements, he decided to go elsewhere. And so, I mean, we can talk about the material impact of the taxes, sure. We could also talk about the other spending that family would have done and the money that would have flowed into the economy here. But something that I've been thinking about a lot is maybe not as material, but significant. It means that we have one less family speaking about their new friends and the rich local culture, and telling stories about how vital the Northern Marianas has been in world history, and that we cannot forget those lessons. The CNMI is business friendly. We know that it has amazing components to it, but it's obscured by this fog of BGRT and these capital gains requirements. So I would humbly urge the committee to move the bill to this bill to the next bill calendar. Thank you for your consideration, and also, and as always, thank you for your service to the CNMI.
Thank you, Mr. Joshua Cook. Podium is still open for any of the members of the public who are here who wishes to make oral testimony. Please state your name for the record. Thank you. Can you on the mic, please?
Thank you to the honorable members of this committee. Hello, my name is Blaine Grayboys Goldman. I'm a CNMI resident and local business owner, investor, and operator. Recently, I co-founded Casa Marianas in a further effort to grow our digital economy. Today, I'm here in support of House Bill 2458 to exempt certain securities and assets from gross revenue tax. However, more than anything, I'm here in support of economic diversification, which provides safety and prosperity through revenue generation by our local businesses and tax collection by our government. It may seem counterintuitive to be promoting revenue and tax development on the one hand, and being here in support of some exemptions, in this case, certain sales of securities from taxation. Certainly, currently, as you've heard earlier, certain businesses and individuals incur BGRT even when selling securities at a loss. Hence, we have no financial services companies here in the Commonwealth. There are many short and long-term benefits to the passage of HB 2458. The most powerful reason is providing immediate, direct, and urgent capital investment here in the CNMI, including by our own residents themselves. Day one, such exemptions and rebates promote direct investment in small businesses and startups, and we need this now. Investors can sell securities and other assets now to invest in new future opportunities. This frees up immediate capital for new businesses expanding or opening here today. This is more important now than ever. And both business owners and potential investors benefit when generating profits in the future for recurring reinvestment. It creates a positive cycle and flywheel. This capital investment leads to an immediate increase in both business and job creation. There's fresh new money to invest in entirely new, even risky ventures. These proposed exemptions will also help entrepreneurs and small business owners who rely on the sale of securities for their own funding. You can invest more directly in your own potential and growth. HB 2458 opens our Commonwealth to entirely new industries, particularly in the financial services sector, to operate here and pay taxes here. The ability to access untapped securities for reinvestment without a tax penalty provides both incentives and resources for economic development, which is an extremely powerful combination. And it's important to remember that money invested and spent in the community has the chance to circulate many times, creating a beneficial halo effect for all stakeholders. Everyone in the CNMI benefits from the passage of HB 2458. On the horizon, HB 2458 would encourage long-term investment as well as retirement savings, as you heard earlier, both of which are critical for our community and future. Investors and savers will feel more confident dedicating their funds with confidence in the tax treatment of future investments. Regardless of our economic situation here in the CNMI, though especially at this time, it makes financial sense to incentivize investment, local business development, and job creation. For those reasons, I'm here today to strongly advocate for the passage of HB 2458. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blaine Golden. Podium is still open for any members of the public who are here. Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Hi, Corinna Boston Pinales, the Economic Recovery Fellow for the CNMI. Thank you for allowing the opportunity to speak on the same bill that was discussed earlier. I appreciate representatives here as well for looking into the opportunity for us to pass this for the benefit of the CNMI. One of the charges of my position as the Economic Recovery Corps Fellow is to keep the NMDs at top of mind with any strategies or opportunities to approach economic recovery. Though this is a vehicle for the CNMI to adjust and make modernize, I do want to make sure that considerations within the regulations to uphold the carrying out of this opportunity are considered with caution, and to make sure you learn from the other territories and stateside regions and states that have adopted similar capacities. Those lessons have been taught, learned, and perhaps adjusted, and I would encourage everyone to look at those examples, to adapt them where it benefits the CNMI, but it also encourages your NMDs to return and be educated in how to apply those opportunities for themselves and for your generations to come. My position as the Economic Recovery Corps Fellow is to think long-term, not just the next 7 months, not just the next 7 years, but to think about the next 7 generations. You have a limited amount of resources, you have a limited amount of land, and you have a wealth of pathways to advance your CNMI to be what you as NMDs and as the community want to see. So within those regulations that would support that vision, if it is considered and broken down with parameters that have not just an adapted fee schedule, but the percentage to reflect the modern economy and to grow with those advancements that you're going to be inviting to your land. So I would like to support this bill moving forward with considerations of the parameters that each department needs to be educated and know how they participate in securing these opportunities for the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Corina. Podium is still open for any members of the public who are here that wishes to make oral testimony. Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Hafaday, my name is Remedio Mafnes, Secretary of Commerce. Good afternoon, and a Hafaday, Mr. Chairman and members of this committee. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this bill. After reviewing measures, I believe it reflects an effort to modernize the CNMI's tax model in response to how services and financial activity are increasingly conducted outside the traditional geographic boundaries. From a policy standpoint, the proposal may improve the CNMI's ability to attract certain service-based and financial activities that are currently discouraged by the application of gross revenue taxation regardless of profitability. Businesses that operate on narrow margins or are in early growth stages often view this structure as a barrier. If implemented carefully, the measure could encourage legitimate operations to establish a presence in the Commonwealth, resulting in employment and income tax contributions tied to annual work performed here. However, this type of exemption should be approached with caution. The CNMI's tax base is already limited, and any expansion of exemptions carries the risk of revenue loss if eligibility standards are not tightly defined and enforced. Without clear boundaries, there is a possibility that activity with title or no real connection to the CNMI could be routed through for tax advantage, placing a greater burden on local businesses that do not have the same flexibility. Further, administration will be critical. If the cinema intends to support digital finance and similar sectors, the government must also have the capacity to verify economic presence, review records, and confirm compliance. An exemption alone does not produce public benefit unless it is paired with practical oversight and documentation requirements that can be easily enforced. The alignment of the income tax mirror code with federal sourcing rules may also reduce uncertainty and improve consistency for taxpayers. That said, implementation details such as transition issues, timing and treatment, or prior periods should clearly be addressed to avoid disputes and uneven application. Overall, I view House Bill 24-58 as a step forward, improving the CNMI's competitiveness, but one that should be paired with clear eligibility standards, significant presence requirements, and strong administrative safeguards. Doing so would help ensure the CNMI gains real economic activity rather than paper transactions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary Mafnas. Podium is still open for any members who are here in the gallery who wishes to make oral testimony. Seeing that there is no further public comments from the members of the public, therefore public comments is now closed, and we move to our next order of business, which is item 4, old business. There happens to be none. We are now on item 5, new business. And first on item 5A is House Bill number 24-48 to adjust the 1992 salary cap of executive directors to the 2025 inflation equivalent amount. The chair had solicited comments from the Attorney General's office, the Secretary of Finance, Commerce, SIDA, and OMB. And on this solicitation of comments, we only received comments from SIDA. We are still awaiting comments from the rest of the agencies, and therefore the chair would ask that if there is no objection, that we table House Bill number 24-48 until we receive the other comments that were solicited. Are there any objection? Thank you, members. Being no objection, House Bill 24-48 is hereby tabled. We move now to item B, which is House Bill number 24-58, entitled to amend 4 CMC subsection 1305 to exempt services and the sale or exchange of securities and other similar assets from gross revenue tax, to amend 4 CMC subsection 1708 to allow rebates for exempted activities, to repeal 4 CMC subsection 1712, and for other purposes. The chair had solicited comments to the Office of the Attorney General, the Secretary of Finance, Revenue and Tax, Saipan Chamber of Commerce, Department of Commerce, SIDA, and OMB. As you can see, we have the Madam Secretary from Commerce had made oral testimony. We have members from the Saipan Chamber of Commerce who also had submitted their written comments on the proposed legislation. We also have members of the business sectors who are here that provided oral testimony in support, and therefore we are now under open discussion on this proposed legislation. Recognize Floor Leader Marisa Flores.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to those in the gallery who are also watching in regard to the items on the agenda of today's committee meeting. I do understand that you mentioned you had solicited comments from particular agencies that should provide comments, but I'm not sure why. The majority of them didn't. However, while I don't think I signed this bill, to be honest. I don't think my name is here. No, I didn't sign this bill. My only question is here is that, you know, while I respect the stance of those in the gallery, I also have to exercise precaution when, on my view, after listening to the comments presented by the Commerce Secretary and the individual that spoke also with her, I don't see any fiscal impacts or analysis in any of these things. I like that there's a lot of flowery words that support it. But when you're talking about ways and means, and you're talking about tax exemptions, and you're talking about the possibility of economic growth, I like to see cost benefits analysis. I like to see impacts on how and what monies are we either going to save or we're going to see come in. Who is going to now relieve, who is going to be relieved of another burden, since we're now exempting somebody else to come in and do business here. While I do understand also that to do business here is a privilege, I also understand that certain taxes are aimed to build and protect social programs such as public safety, education, and healthcare. I'm not sure where the rest of my colleagues stand, and I do respect that the governor does have his own economic council that possibly studies these things, but minus any impact analysis, I will be withholding any vote, and whatever vote is going to come up, I will actually propose that we table this without, because there are no fiscal impact analysis that accompany any of this. And if you're open, Chairman, maybe further dialogue with the Governor's Economic Council, also to include the Saipan Chamber. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, Representative Marisa Flores. We're still under open discussion. Recognize Representative Joel Camacho.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good afternoon, Madam Secretary, and to everybody that came here today to provide testimony. Appreciate that. While I do support the bill, and I do see that we have several agencies that support the legislation, we have from the Saipan Chamber, we have Mr. Joe Guerrero, who's here, Carrie Dot. Well, my apologies, Carrie Dot commented on something else, but CEDA, you know, we have some agencies out there that are supporting this piece of legislation, and I do see the benefits of it. My only concern, though, is the comment that was provided by the Division of Revenue and Taxation. Some of it points out stuff with regards to like certain definitions in the bill that are not clearly defined. Some other minor problematic stuff that the Division of Tax and Revenue foresees, and I just say that it's a little bit concerning because, you know, Tax and Rev are going to be administering a lot of this moving forward. So maybe, I don't know if we should resolve into committee of the whole to get further clarification from any of these guys that addresses these comments. I'm not sure what to do at this current moment.
If the members of the Department of Commerce are in liberty to have questions and answers with the body, I know that the Secretary of Commerce just stepped out. But we're still under open discussion. We'll wait for Madam Secretary to on her return. and we can perhaps dissolve in the committee as a whole and have questions and answers between the members and folks from Commerce and even folks from Saipan Chamber of Commerce for that matter as well. So further discussion, are there any other members that have concern with this proposed legislation? Recognize Representative Julie Ogo.
Thank you, Chairman. I share the same sentiment with Representative Joe Camacho and Representative Marisa Flores. We are for economic growth. My only concern, which I'm not comfortable at this point to make any votes on this legislation, because first of all, we need financial analysis on the impact of this bill that will be, that's intended to do. Just glancing and going through the bill, I just see an unfair, it's kind of like an unfair approach to it. If we're gonna, waive taxes for this foreign digital assets, what about our online, our local businesses here that are, if there is one already, are they gonna be exempted from this tax break? So, in addition to that, this is similar to the qualifying certificate through CETA, and it seems like this is the easy way out. And I need more details, regarding this bill before I place my vote, so I request to table this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Julie Ogo. Are there any other members who wishes to be recognized on this proposed legislation? Recognize again Representative Joel Camacho.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to reiterate that there's already a motion made by two members, our floor leader and our chairwoman of Commerce and Tourism.
It's more of a request to table. It's not a motion.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So it's not a motion, but just the beneficial aspect of having a committee of the whole, at least before we do decide to do any motions, place any motions to table, at least we get further clarification now that we have a bunch of the stakeholders here today. So with that said, I make a motion that we dissolve into committee of the whole. Thank you.
Yeah. But before we even entertain that motion, we want to make sure that these folks are in liberty to divulge any information from their departments. That's why we want to, let's call for a short recess and figure out if they are in liberty to dissolve in the committee. So short recess. We are back on our short recess, and before we had a recess, we are under open discussion under new business item B, House Bill 24-58, and because of the concerns of many members that wanted to have the opportunity given to the committee to have a audience with all the stakeholders that are impacted by this proposed legislation. So the chair will set a meeting with the Department of Finance, Division of Revenue and Tax, Saipan Chamber of Commerce, the Department of Commerce, CEDA, and other private businesses, entities that are impacted by this proposed legislation or have expressed their support on this proposed legislation. So with that, are there any objections that we table House Bill number 24-58 and allow the chair to make those arrangements with those stakeholders? With no objection, thank you, members. House Bill 24-58 is hereby tabled, and the author of House Bill 24-72 had asked the chair that we discuss this on the latter part of our agenda. Are there any objections?
No objection.
So with that, we move now to new business item D, House Bill 24-73, entitled to provide a non-refundable tax credit to taxpayers who make donations of cash or food supplies to qualified community-based service organizations. The chair had solicited comments from the Office of the Attorney General, Secretary of Finance, Saipan Chamber of Commerce, Department of Commerce, CEDA, the mayor's offices, Carried Out, and Salvation Army. And so far, we have only received comments from CEDA on this proposed legislation, and of course, comments from Carried Out on this legislation. And with that, we are still pending to receive the orders that the chair had solicited, so we are now under open discussion. Recognize Representative Joel Camacho.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While I do wholeheartedly support this bill, and I did co-author this House Bill 24-72, I do just have two questions.
73.
70. Oh, we skipped 72? Is there, Mr. Chairman, is there a reason why we skipped 72?
I have mentioned that the chair had
Sorry, I stepped
requested
out.
if we can.
My apologies, I stepped out
yeah.
when that request was made. Okay, my apologies. Are you?
We are under new business item D, House Bill 24-73. Are there any discussion? Recognize Representative Denita Yangtamay.
I just want to say that I do support this, but it was introduced only. I mean, it was not with no legal sufficiency. So what does that mean?
Recognize the vice.
Thank you, Rep. Yanktamay. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Rep. Yanktamay, for bringing that up. I mean, that's exactly what my concern is, because this committee can pass this or submit it to the floor for full action, and the House passes it. This wouldn't even be able to be entertained by the Senate, because in their rules they won't allow they won't entertain any legislation that was introduced for. It's only for introduction purposes. So I think maybe this is something that, Mr. Chairman, we should allow council to review the legislation. And it seems like Council Tyrone was the one that signed this for introduction purposes only, and he's not here to explain why it was signed for introduction purposes only. But yeah, but that's the thing. No, it's we need to hold on to the bill because we don't even know there's a substitute. If we pass this bill in committee and the House passes it, it's not going to make it on to the floor of the Senate. So I think we should hold on to the legislation and make sure that the council's review the legislation itself, and why was it only signed for introduction purposes only?
All right, thank you, Vice. And of course, Rep. Denita and Vice Chairman had concerns about the proposed legislation signed for introductional purposes only. And as I mentioned also earlier, that we're still awaiting pending solicited comments from other agencies. Maybe by tabling this, we are allowing our legal team and legal counsels to further review this proposed legislation while we're waiting for the pending comments. So are there any objections that we table House Bill number 24-73? Thank you, members. With no objection, House Bill 24-73 is hereby tabled. Thank you, members. Moving along, we are now on item E under new business, and that is House Bill 24-77, entitled to amend the operating budget and scope of operations of the Office of Grants Management and State Clearinghouse, the CNMI OGM SC office, and for other purposes. The chair had solicited comments from the Office of Attorney General, the Office of Secretary of Finance, of course, also from the Office of Grants and Management and Office of OMB. And to this day, we haven't received any comments on this proposed legislation. We are now under open discussion. Recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Chairman. And being the author of this bill, the intent and the purpose of this driving legislation is this unending conversation about 35%, who's in charge. Either it's OMB, is it the clearinghouse, is it the governor? I mean, you know, I just love how we have legislation or laws that have been implemented for good intent and good purpose, but it's never really truly defined as what the goal and the role is. And so on page 3, line 6, while I'm not addressing the percentages that is listed on subsection 2893, which is the operating budget and scope of operations, I am, however, looking at letter B, beginning from line 5 and ending on line 6. The CNMI OGM SC shall be permitted the carryover funds from year to year, period. With the strikeout of, with the approval of the office of the governor. Now, I don't know how my colleagues feel about this, but as of now, all grants that have to be applied must pass through the clearinghouse, which means, in my understanding, the Mr. Cabrera has to write the grants, look at everybody's grant submission, pass through, and it's done there. But every time we have this language where I know that the governor is his boss, I get it. The governor is the boss to everybody in the executive branch, I understand that. But sometimes there are discrepancies, especially when grants have carryover funds that should not be touched. It should be there for its intended purpose. It's not anybody's slush fund anyway. But at least if we give him, if there's a period from year to year, this legislature speaks directly to OGM. Because right now, even if we bring in OGM, it's going to have to ask the governor first to come. And I'm not doing this because I have an issue with individuals. It's about systemic reform. And in order for us to reform and fix systems so that there is balance, we must fix even the most minuscule of language. Allow the OGM some authority. Because if anything, he's the one doing all the work. But if he still has to, if he's sitting there and the office of the governor, who's his boss, says, no, I'm not giving you that money, assuming, but these are scenarios again that could happen, then what's the point? We might as well just really look at Public Law 1949 that created the individual and the office to begin with. Because I had grants that were supposed to be submitted, and apparently I have to see where that list is, where I was rejected, because apparently police officers, the law for police officers not to have body cam is not a law. I didn't know. That's safety. That's an internal issue that I don't need to pass a law for that. But the fact that there's no autonomy for OGM to look at his funds and say, hey, you can carry this over for whatever purpose, as long as it makes sense with the grant, not just leave it there and then if I'm short, I'm going to take it from there. You can't. We have to stop at some point and fix it. And again, that was the reason for this, was to look at all of our funds, hold whatever funds we have, and let the legislature be the one to disseminate that. But if you're talking about grants, then at least we can say, hey, kwanto gano, sir, administrator, gagi gano gizo mo carry over, talifan. He has to give that to us. But right now, with just even this, with the approval of the office of the governor, I don't know. I'm just trying to have systemic reform. I'm trying to advocate for balance, for fairness, for, yes, respect for autonomy. But when you're talking about an economic climate right now where there's not enough, then we need to scrutinize this, whether it be a sunset provision or what have you. But I ask that this body consider it, at least on the argument. And I know that the creator of 1949 is sitting in here that might not agree, and I can respect that, right? But at the end of the day, this is just like MPLT and DPL, surgically trying to fix so that at some point there is some smooth transition. But I don't think that having this year to year with the approval of the office of the governor, I mean, was that there anyway to begin with? And I'm pretty sure because he's the expenditure authority, because he's gonna, he's the boss for the executive branch. But that doesn't mean he gets to control funds that are already attached to 35% of indirect costs. Thank you, Chairman. I yield my time.
Thank you, author of the proposed legislation, Rep. Marissa Flores. Recognize the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Rep. Flores, for sharing your thoughts. And I believe this legislation is only talking about the 35%, correct? And the only reason why that language was originally proposed and under 19-49 was that the accounts for employees or distribution for employees and operations always had a fiscal year limitation based on the budget. If you look at the budget submission by the administration, it showed under the concurrent resolution that talks about that, I think it was like $700,000. That's directly for OGM, it's 35%. And that's why the language was to allow the administration, any administration, to allow the funds to carry over for the next fiscal year. We all know that with every fiscal year, the budget ends. So whatever's in those specific accounts that are going to be distributed for personnel and operations cease to exist, right? So that's why that language was included under 19-49. But if it's to remove it, that's fine. I don't have a problem removing it. But this is only in reflection to the 35%. So I don't have a problem with that at all. But like I said, the reason why it was included in in the original form was to make sure that it's abiding to the Planning and Budgeting Act and our Constitution cap of September 30. That's the reason why that specific language was in there. But if the members find it proper that we remove that language to allow OGM to stick to the 35% and keep whatever's in the 35%, we got to make sure that what's being submitted this way and it's reflected in the concurrent resolution under the governor's cover letter to the legislature on every budget year, that it's the true number, not a made up number, because that $700,000 may change to 900,000, 1 point some million dollars, or even down to $300,000. That we need to make sure that that's clear, because what we're doing is we're capping them in that budget process. And with this language was really to allow whoever the administration was to allow OGM to continue providing services based on the monies that were fixed in their account for that fiscal year. But if they needed extra money, they needed the concurrence from the governor to allow them to use that extra fund. So if it's only going to be the 35%, I'm fine with that. Anything beyond the 25%, then we're going to have some problems with that, because those are other accounts that's directed to outside of the operations and personnel of OGM. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice, and you still have the floor, Representative Marisa
And
Flores.
thank you, Vice, for that. And again, right, I truly understand where you're coming from. I did read Public Law 1949, and again, it states right in the cover page, to enhance oversight and responsibility regarding federal grant assistance within the CNMI government, period. And because that language is in there, and because of my many attempts to have conversations about funds that apply to the 35%, I have been hitting roadblocks or whatever kinds of approvals that need be. I don't think that's fair, and I just don't think it's balanced. And I think that given the intent of 1949, we must at least give and grant the administrator some autonomy to come in and answer to the legislature without fear of losing his job. His job was to write the grant for the intended purpose to build infrastructure, bring in new monies, but I get that he has a boss. I understand that, but that's a contractual agreement. That's not a cabinet member. So in terms of fairness and autonomy, and at least for the legislature to enforce 1949, which was to enhance oversight and responsibilities regarding federal grant assistance within the CNMI government. That's it. That's all I'm asking. Thank you, Chairman, and I hope my colleagues can support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Marisa Flores. We are still under open discussion on the proposed legislation. Are there any further discussion? If we're ready, do I hear any motion? Recognize Representative Joel Camacho.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we adopt a committee report for the passage of House Bill 24-77. So move.
There is a motion offered by Representative Joel Camacho for the adoption by this standing committee on House Bill numbers 24-77, and that this committee formulates a committee report for the full body of the House to consider its passage. It has been seconded. Discussion on that motion? Ready? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Motion is adopted. Thank you, members. With that, we move further down on under new business, item F. Senate Bill 24-18, Senate Draft 1, entitled to amend 1 CMC subsection 2803 regarding the budget submission of the Department of Public Lands and for other purposes. We have, for reference, we have Senate Communication 24-14, which is, I believe, all members have. on the findings and the committee report of the Senate Committee on Fiscal Affairs that they have deliberated, and now we are now under open discussion. Recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I think this bill, there was a House version, I think there's a Senate version. But I believe that the Senate bill also addresses that, the big changes here are accountability, right? And ensuring that the revenue shall be remitted to MPLT 45 calendar days at the end of each fiscal year. It defines what revenue is. It clearly states that funds collected by DPL over the DPL budget, including surplus funds from lease agreements, interest on accounts, and fees or royalties from public land permits, period. Net revenue shall not include any security deposits. So it's very, very detailed as to what net revenue is. We're not talking about anything else except for all of those monies that are due based on the law. So, and it also talks about reporting times on this, that revenues collected and expenditures, the DPL secretary shall provide a detailed report to the presiding officers of the legislature within 30 days of the end of each quarter. Now, I fully support this bill, and I think it's due time that maybe there's some tightening of language in regard to how subsection 2803 is being treated. Because again, when you go back to the economic climate and the fact that we have no real numbers, everything that we get is anticipated. And that information is not given to us until budget hearings. There's several accounts we know that DPL may have. And we, again, right? That's up to the Secretary of Finance to have these conversations and give us this stuff. But I think for me, there's protections in here that allow for a fair and balanced kind of legislation. There are provisions for reporting. And there's one section here on page 3, on line 4, it says all debts, liabilities, obligations, and operational expenses of the department. There's a strike through on including land compensation judgments shall be paid from DPL operations fund bank accounts. There's plural. So we know that there's more than one bank account. So maybe that's something we need to look into and ask. But the Secretary of Finance, the Department of Public Lands comment dated March 12, 2025, he opposes the proposed revision on 1 CMC 2803 requiring DPL to tap into the funds derived from public land leases to finance construction of homestead road, power, and water infrastructure. And he emphasizes a court case if the legislature wishes to add land compensation judgments to DPL operating budget, it is free to do so, but it must appropriate the money to satisfy such judgments. It may not tap into funds derived from public lands absent a constitutional amendment or absent abolishment of public land trust. Emphasis added. So, now we know what to do in order to pay land compensation. For those reasons, and in closing, the Department of Land respectfully opposes the passage of SB 2418 despite multiple attempts to advance this legislation. DPL remains steadfast in its objections. And again, right, We know that DPL is one of the biggest agencies, and do they submit their budget? I don't know if they do.
It's only for informational.
Oh, for informational purposes, even, that's great. They don't even submit a budget, they just give us what they think they need.
But this proposed legislation, if I may interject, Floor Leader.
Sure.
This proposed legislation proposes that they submit in their budget and the legislature
Correct.
approves their own budget.
Yes, which again surgically takes away from that part where they just say this is what it is, and then we don't know what the surplus is. No? Okay, so I don't know. For me, I support this bill. I think there was a House version that went up there as well, but if the Senate wants to take full lead on this, then I support the bill. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, Floor Leader. And also, just to add on your concerns about the Secretary of Public Lands letter to the committee, I believe on the draft, Senate Draft 1, they have addressed those strike-throughs on page 2. We're still under further discussion. Recognize Representative Joel Camacho.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. And I do reiterate and agree with Madam Floor Leader here. I just have a quick question that maybe just needs some clarification from our legal counsel. And if that is clarified, then I'm ready to move forward with this bill. I do like that they're going to be submitting, DPL will be submitting for legislative approval. I like that. That's an extra, oversight on DPL itself. But I just want to ask counsel, this is not a violation of our Constitution. This is not a legislative overreach. Because I know we are amending 1 CMC 2803, but does that reference anything that may violate anything in the Constitution? I know they did cite a court ruling, DPL versus CNMI 2010 MP 14 on October 4, 2010. But just for clarity. Thank you.
Counsel?
I'd have to do some more research on that. I'm not familiar, but I do see the case citation.
Right. Just so some of the members know that there is such a judgment ruling in the Supreme Court. And from that ruling, it's very crystal clear that we have the authority to appropriate and approve the Department of Public Lands budget. We've made several attempts in the past, but what this proposed legislation is just making it crystal clear and citing those Supreme Court judgment ruling. But if Counsel Carey needs more time to answer your question, Representative Joel, maybe while she's trying to do more research on that, let's just continue having this open discussion. Recognize Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll continue if the Chairman, Rep. Camacho, is going to yield his time. All right, thank you, Rep. Camacho. I think if it's overreaching, Chairman, is your concern into DPL, I don't think it is, because DPL was created under Public Law 15-2 by the legislative branch to create a Department of Public Lands. Matter of fact, DPL, before it became DPL or MPLA, MPLC, they used to be directly under the Department of Lands and Natural Resources. So they've always been a line item department under the CNMI government, except during the autonomous years with their MPLC and MPLA, and now back to as a line item department. So I don't think we're overreaching in that sense, if that's a concern. Maybe the concern of overreaching is what they're trying to say, that we cannot tap into DPL monies that are supposed to be remitted to MPOT in regards to homesteads for power, utility, and I think sewer, water, all of that kind of stuff, right? But I think that we can also be creative enough in the appropriation that out of the $5 million that's being appropriated for DPL's usage for its operational costs, this operational cost shall include utility costs for homestead openings within the Commonwealth of the Northern Islands. That, I think, it's not overreaching. We've done it with the Parks and Rec inclusive language in the Budget Act to make sure that they do pay for services for Parks and Rec. So I think an operational cost should include opening of homesteads. If they're raffling homesteads, then that should be part of their operational costs as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice. We're still under open discussion. Recognize the floor leader.
I just like to ask our colleague from the First Senatorial District, does this in any way impact those waiting for land compensation payment? Do you have is there existing list of individuals that need to be paid in your senatorial district?
Yes, there is. There's actually a list, and of course, it's always been, an issue trying to pay those landowners, and some has passed away or are stricken medically, and they're in need of this money. And yes, there is a lot waiting.
Let's have please proceed.
Okay, no, I'm just going to reply because the conversation was that there are individuals in all senatorial districts that have yet to be paid, which means that this is a compounding liability that the Commonwealth has had. It carries over and it carries over and it continues to carry over without any interest, mind you. So given that we have already taken and these liabilities continue to be in the books with no remedy, unless it is passed through the courts, which is expensive, then I think that supporting the passage of this and then allowing this body to now figure out a way to create a source, a special source or reserve account for the payments of these land compensations that have already been due over the years. I mean, I think that it's an injustice. We seem to be supporting a lot of the settlements and obligations, but this is an obligation that's clearly not being addressed for whatever purpose. But now we would like to have this systemic reform and allow some kind of remedy and at least provide a solution moving forward to now isolate and develop its reserve fund for the payment of the land compensation. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Recognize Representative Joel Camacho.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just kind of going over the committee report just to see why they struck out on page 2, lines 17 and 18 and 19. Why they struck out. Sums required to be held in reserve for approved homesteads or other department programs in the next 2 fiscal years.
Right.
I find that kind of odd because you provide an additional restriction when we have so many people waiting in line for their homesteads, and removing this language makes it more difficult for us to find that necessary funding to complete homestead projects.
The strike through here that you see on page 2, line 17 and 18 was done because they were trying to address the concerns of a DPO secretary, that it might be unlawful to use these public land leases for these purposes, because the Constitution is very clear that after the operations of the Department of Public Lands, all excess public land leases must be remitted to MPLT. And mind you guys, if you look at those strike through, this is the Senate Draft 1. So originally when this proposed legislation was introduced by President Carl Neighbors, it had all these provisions, but following the concern on the letter from Public Land Secretary, those were stricken out to address the concern of Secretary Igisomer. Or, for that matter, it was Secretary Teresita Santos at that point of time. Yes, based on that, their letter of concerns on the time when the Senate was deliberating on this proposed legislation. All right. Any further discussion? I recognize Representative Marisa Flores.
I think right now, because this bill, this committee report was given to us in April of 2025, I think this committee should take a look at page 3, line 13 to 19. It does talk about commercial mining permits now. The DPL shall assess, manage, and collect all mining permit fees.
So those that you see there that that don't have any strike through, those are already in the code, on the law.
Right, and so I'm just stating that it's here, but that still allows us to make an amendment on this, or no, we're accepting it in its form?
No, this proposed legislation, this committee can still make amendments if we feel or we feel
The need to do so.
to do so. This is not a house product where normally whatever a house product that we vote from here goes to the Senate, and when it gets amended, it's either we accept or we reject.
So
Yeah,
here's
this
my
is not the
question.
case, yeah.
Could we make an amendment with the insertion of seabed mining? In the event something happens that we don't even know, we don't want to be too late and not make the changes? Can I ask for a short recess, please?
Short recess. We are back from our short recess, and before we had the short recess, we were deliberating on item F, Senate Bill 24-18, SD1, entitled to amend 1 CMC subsection 2803 regarding the budget submission of the Department of Public Lands and for other purposes. And at this time, I recognize Representative Joel Camacho.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we recessed, I did request our legal counsel to provide some clarity, which was provided, which regarding issue of legislative overreach, and hearing that there's none, I'd like to move that we adopt a committee report for Senate Bill 24-18 SD1 for the passage on our incoming session. So move.
There is a motion to adopt Senate Bill 24-18 SD1, and that this standing committee formulates its committee report. It has been seconded. Discussion on that motion. Ready? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Motion is adopted. Thank you, members. Moving along, we are now on item G, Senate Bill 24-19, entitled to amend 9 CMC subsection 2208D to authorize motor vehicle licensure to all residents of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. We also have Senate Communication 24-39, which provides the committee report on the committee on my apologies, members. By the way, this legislation is authored by Floor Leader Senator Donald Magnolia. Committee on Judiciary, Governmental, and Law. We are now under open discussion. Recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Chairman. And just for protection purposes, Council, on page 2, it talks about page 2, line 7, I'm sorry, line 8. Proof of a person's social security account number or verification that the person is not eligible for a social security account number. What is that?
I think that's in the books already, right? On the law.
Proof of the person's social security account number or verification that the person is not eligible for a social security account number. I mean, if you don't have a social security account number, you're not supposed to be here, right?
It's currently part of the law, but there's reasons you might not be a resident, but try to get a driver's license. So, but it is currently, I think it has to do with the real ID
Got you.
verification.
So then here's my question then, Chairman, and maybe Rep. Flores can answer this. DMV or BMV does not take copies of individuals of social, or does not take a copy of the individual social security card, does it? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, floor leader. Any further discussion? There is also under the committee report on Senate Communication 24-39, there are also a comment from Department of Public Safety on regards to with regards to Senate Bill 24-19. Recognize, Floor leader.
Sorry, Chairman, on the DPS letter dated March 17, which is also provided and in the committee report, talks about this particular bill. The Bureau would like to recommend increasing the schedule fee, additional $25 to the current fee of $50 for a total of $75. It states in the back, on page 3, line B, it includes the fee, but the fee is still at $50 with no increase as asked or recommended by the Commissioner of Public Safety. So I just like to know, considering that the director of BMV is now seeking an additional $25 to bring the total amount to $75, I would assume it is for other administrative expenses, which may not be supported by federal funds.
That is correct. There is this communication from the Director of Motor Vehicle requesting for an additional $25 on top of what the fee is at $50. So he is requesting a total licensor fee at $75. But despite that communication to the Senate Committee on JGO, they did not increase that fee.
Right, and they didn't increase it, but that's a new language in which that is the current fee, because they wouldn't have put a fee amount there. Only the House can do that, right? So that must be an existing language, the $50? No?
No, it's not. It's additional new language.
Right, presently it's $50,
$50,
right? But the language there is new, but the
Yeah.
fee schedule is still the same at $50, correct? So because the Department of Public Safety is asking, so may I make an amendment that on
Let's-
that area?
Before the amendment, can we just make sure that that these texts are not part of the existing law? And let's have a short recess and allow Council Carrie to just take a look at, short recess. Carrie, if you look at the underline Thank you, members. We rise back to our committee session. And before we had a short recess, we were on item G, Senate Bill 24-19, to amend 9 CMC subsection 2208D to authorize motor vehicle licensure to all residents of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. And at this time, I recognize Representative Joel Camacho.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for allowing us to take a short recess just to double look at things, or double check on things. And with that said, Mr. Chairman, we're ready to move forward on this bill, so I hereby motion or move to adopt a committee report for the passage of Senate Bill number 24-32, Senate Draft 1 in its current form. So move.
Senate 24-19.
Sorry, my apologies. Senate Bill 24-19. I'm looking at two different things.
Do
To
I hear a
adopt the committee
second?
report for the passage of Senate Bill 24-19 in its current form. So move.
Second.
There is a motion offered by Representative Joel Camacho for the adoption of Senate Bill 24-19, and that this standing committee formulates its committee report, calling for the passage to the full body of the House. And it has been seconded. Any further discussion? Ready? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Motion is adopted. Thank you, members. Moving along, we are now on item H, Senate Bill 24-32, Senate Draft 1, entitled to amend 2 CMC subsections 3551 to change the expenditure authority, management, and control of solid waste sub-accounts for the first and second senatorial district and for other purposes. Also before the Standing Committee on Ways and Means is Senate Communication 24-16, reflecting the committee report for Senate Bill 24-32 SD1. We are now under open discussion. Recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Chairman, and this is a hot bill. And, you know, again, one of the things that we spoke about during the budget was, and with discussion with the Secretary of DPW, was the solid waste management revolving account. Now, I do understand that there is a lengthy committee report regarding the author's intent. Now, while I do respect the intent of that, I do feel that at some point, regardless of where we live, this is still one Marianas. And one Marianas means the Secretary of Public Works is the Secretary of Public Works throughout the Marianas. They do have respected resident heads that act as a secondary boss, which is fine. That's how it was designed. But I do have a concern that on page 2, the insertion, it says the Secretary of Fund is vested in the blah, 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 Department of Public Works, provided that the expenditure authority for the sub-accounts of the first and second senatorial district shall be the mayor of the respective municipality. Now, you know, I love my brothers and sisters from the first and second senatorial district, but we don't go and say, hey, sinyalaw na, you know, I don't overreach over there, although we can, but we just don't. And I think this one right here, this could have easily been in concurrence, in collaboration, but to strip the secretary who has taken an oath to protect the funds, that's a really big insult, like. And I cannot and I'm, with all due respect with my colleague from the first senatorial district, in no way I'm trying to undermine the authority or say that there's no trust. That is outside of what my comment is. We have a Secretary of Public Works, and we should respect the Secretary of Public Works. We have all the means set up for open dialogue and communication at the end of the day. Those systems are set. And if those systems are not set, then that's an issue where the mayor and the Secretary of Public Works should create. It's a job. It's not taking control of these funds. I know that the intent, there's, see? Then he has on page 3, the secretary, an insertion, line 1, the Secretary of Public Works, DPW resident head of the first second shall provide within 30 days each fiscal year an annual report to the presiding officers. Okay, annual report, that's great. But this also creates the sub-accounts of the first and second senatorial district. What sub-account? Is there a sub-account for solid waste in the first and second senatorial district?
It's actually a pretty good deal because they're removing the mayors and they're giving it to the respective department resident heads.
But the secretary,
It's actually less politics.
this,
It's actually good.
yeah, can I call for a short recess?
Let's go for a short recess. Okay, members, we rise back to our committee meeting. And before we had a short recess, we were deliberating on item H, Senate Bill 24-32, Senate Draft 1. And under the consensus of the majority of the committee members, because there are still a lot of clarity that needs to be made, the chair will schedule a meeting with the Secretary of Department of Public Works to get more clarity with the with regards to the proposed legislation. So with that, is there any objection that we table Senate Bill 24-32 SD1? Thank you, members. With no objection, Senate Bill 24-32 SD1 is hereby tabled. And we are now, if I can get you guys' attention, that we move back to item C under new business. That will be our last order of business. And this is House Bill number 24-72, entitled to impose a remittance transfers tax within the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands equivalent to the federal excise tax under 26 USC subsection 4475 to ensure equitable revenue capture from outbound remittances, to strengthen compliance with federal fiscal policy, and for other purposes. The chair, the author of the legislation is here with us, Floor Leader Representative Marisa Flores, and at this time, I'd like to recognize her.
Thank you, Chairman. And before spearheading into the substitute that I would be presenting to this body, I'd like to submit for the record comments from the Department of Commerce, CEDA, and another one from the Department of Commerce for your purview, and maybe if they can make copies. But most especially on one that was dated on October 27th. So, Sarge, can you give this?
Does every member have a?
No, they don't.
Can we get a short recess and
Short recess,
make
please.
sure that every member has this hard copy for review? Short recess. And before we had the short recess, we were at item C under new business. House Bill 24-72, entitled to impose a remittance transfer tax within the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, equivalent to the federal excise tax under 26 USC subsection 4475, my apologies, to ensure equitable revenue captured from outbound remittances, to strengthen compliance with federal fiscal policy and for other purposes. And at this time, I recognize the floor leader, who is the author of this proposed legislation.
Thank you, Chairman. And I know that this has been a discussion since the 23rd legislature about remittance, outbound remittance funds. If you look at your attachments, I believe, there were several there from Commerce that clearly indicated the outbound remittance funds outside of the Commonwealth. Now, before I start, I know that I had submitted House Bill 2472, but I'd like to offer this committee a substitute because in House Bill 72 that was formally introduced, it lacked clear definition, administrative purpose, and crucial information in regard and to be in compliance with the federal law as stated in the title. So everybody has a copy of House Substitute 1? Okay.
Yes, we do. Does everybody have the substitute before you? Okay.
All right, so on page 2, there is section 3, the enactment, and subject to codification by the CNMI Law Revision Commission, the following provision is hereby enacted into law as a new chapter 15, quote, remittance transfer. I'd like to omit the word tax in any place that you see and replace that with the word fee.
Subsequently, on all terminology on tax?
Correct. I would like to replace that with the word fee. So you see that on page 2, line 15. You see that on page 2, line 21. You see that on page 3, line 3. Everything that says tax would be replaced by the word fee. Okay?
And that is to include the title as well, right?
Correct. Now, the federal law says that 1% has been already enacted to all FinCEN businesses, money service businesses, which is identified in the federal register, MSBs. For the CNMI, we do not have that, except for one franchise that is already registered within FinCEN who automatically pays the 1% directly into the federal tax system. So I need to make that very clear because there is a section here on the exclusions. There. On page 6, letter G.
Page 6?
Yes. Letter G, to avoid duplicative taxation. So the exception is to the those that are already recorded in FinCEN, which is already, they're protected under the federal law. And counsel, please, at any time, interject. It also talks about, this is the one I wanted to make sure, there is a de minimis threshold of $50. So anything less than $50 will be exempted from any levy, fee. And then, Chairman, real quick, can I call for a short recess?
Let's have a short recess. Hold on. We are back on our preliminary session, and before we had that short recess, we were at open discussion on item C, House Bill 24-72, and the author of the bill, Floor Leader Marissa Flores, still has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And at this time, I'd like to respectfully request if there's no objection from this body, I had failed to include the language for the reserve fund that will assign the levies or the fees for its holding for the reserve fund. That wasn't included in this bill, and because we are now going to protect those funds, I need to insert that language. So may I please request from the chairman, if there's no objection from this committee, that we recess till 1:30 tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any objections from the members to recess while the author of House Bill number 24-72 would make the necessary changes, and that we do have a recess till tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock? With no objection, thank you, members. We are now in recess.